Well, it's been a long time since I've streamed. Um, yeah, just IRL stuff happening. All good. Nothing bad. Um, but I do miss streaming. I really do miss streaming, and I've really seriously uh, miss my Blender stuff. I mean, I have been working on stuff. I just haven't streamed it in the background. So I've been sort of helping quite a few people out with various bits and pieces, mostly to do with Second Life. I've got a lot of projects on, a lot of ideas that I want to work on. So, but yeah, I've recently been introduced to Stable Diffusion as a. In the last few months, actually, I've been introduced to Stable Diffusion as a AI generating tool, let's say, right? So the reason why I got into it is because for years now I have wanted to try um, and get the perfect depth map. Right now, there's lots of tools out there, and I'm not going to go through all of them. I've used most of them, and I still use a couple of tools, but Stable Diffusion, my goodness, that's on a different level. And it isn't the most easiest of apps to get installed and to get up and running, but my goodness, once you start using it, it's difficult to put it down as a tool. The thing I like about it is that I've installed it locally to my machine, so I control everything, right? I know you can use online systems and blah de blah de blah de blah, and they all cost loads of money, and you're still paying companies loads of money, even though you're not using it. which I just I just don't like that. I like to be in a lot more control, and I want my stuff to be private, and I don't want it shared globally, and I don't want people seeing what it is I'm using it for, and all of those other things. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I could talk about AI stuff for many hours. Yeah, but anyway, that's not what this is about today. Today's stream, I'm gonna chill out. I've already worked on this, but I just wanted to share how I got to this point. And it's been a couple of months. I've spent about 2 months using. I mean, when I installed Stable Diffusion, it blew my mind. I wasn't impressed on the first couple of days, but once you learn how to use it, and once you learn how it works, it's mind-blowing. It literally is mind-blowing, and has completely transformed my perception about AI and its uses. There's a lot of things I don't agree with AI, but that's my opinion. It's my own use. But anyway, regardless, okay, it's a brilliant tool for doing what I'm going to show actually today, or what I want to demo today. So everyone, I mean, obviously I'm relating this to Second Life a little bit as well, because Second Life is still very much a part of my online presence, as it were. And we just recently had Relay for Life, the fantasy fair. Okay, now everyone has seen these kind of models, right? I mean, this in my opinion is not a particularly good version, but Out of all the photographs that I took through Fantasy Fair, this is probably the clearest image that I've got. If I exit, I mean, this kind of thing is being used more and more and more everywhere you go now. I mean, you see it more and more. I mean, you could say that that's even, no, that's probably too clean. Sometimes it's difficult to determine what is being used by AI 3D and what isn't, really. But this is an obvious use, I think, of either the person altered a model that they downloaded, or they may very well have got hold of a model of some sort, or were able to create a 3D mesh model from a series of photographs of this kind of dragon head type thing. You know, it's very clever, but at the same time, I think can look really, really bad if it's badly done, right? I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and I love playing around with this stuff. I've played around with all of this stuff, you know, where you take a photograph of something, you know, you go outside and you take a photograph of, you know, 100 photographs of a statue or something, and then, you know, there's plenty of bits of software that kind of compile that into a 3D model. Excuse me. And, you know, it kind of works, but it produces this massive working files, which you then have to try and... Sorry, I'm just topping up my water. I'm drinking so much water at the moment. It's very, very hot. So yeah, it's... There's lots of ways of doing things now. Certainly more now than there has ever been. But I wanted to just run through what I've done very, very simply, and I'm all for producing quality fast, and, you know, and to kind of try and keep that land, especially for Second Life, that land impact down, right? But you still want the quality. Now, realistically, yes, this is pretty good. It was obviously a big model, but at the same time, I just don't, for me, the quality's not there. I just wouldn't have displayed this, you know. But anyway, that's just me. So that's where I'm coming from. Okay, so how do you do it, right? The other thing, let me see if I can show you what a depth map looks like. Let me grab the depth map. Sorry, bear with me. So, yeah, let me just grab the depth map here. Have I still got it? I think I still have it. Yeah. Bear with me, bear with me. Okay, I know I have it. I've got it backed up. Hang on. I've got backups. Yeah, stable diffusion. I wonder where they got the name from, stable diffusion. I think I know where it comes from. I mean, stable obviously because it's a stable product, but diffusion is what AI uses to create, and this is everything that I've learned, you know, over with the AI, and I mean, I've been around it for quite a long time. It's just here we go, here we go, here we go. Right, so this, let me copy this, and then you can see what the original image looks like, and then too much data, too much data. Okay, depth map. There we go. Right. Okay. So, this was a really low resolution image. Okay, and let me just show you what I started with. So this, I don't quite know why it's there. Interesting. Okay. Why is it there? It's almost like it's the display. Hang on, bear with me 1 minute. Oh. Right, there we go. I don't know quite why that was doing that, but anyway. So if I just zoom in, this is actually a very low resolution image, right? And I was playing around with Stable Diffusion, creating portraits, okay? Because I used to be a photographer for 30 plus years. And so I thought I'm going to try and, you know, recreate something. So use a series of words, create a portrait and whatever. This turned out to be a very low resolution image. It's in fact only 512 by 512, and that's it zoomed in. Okay, that is an AI generated portrait in black and white, which again, it's been 84 years. 80, what's been 84 years? Stable Diffusion? Or AI's been around for 84 years? Hi Morning Stark, how are you? Good to see you, by the way. I'm thought I'd try and do a stream. I haven't been doing a stream for a long time. But it's, sorry, I was in the depths of just AI upscale it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can. I mean, I've got other tools that I use for upscaling photographs. It's not a problem. But it doesn't, for this particular thing, I was just blown away by the fact that this image is only 512 by 512, and when you see the results, it's just mind-blowing. It's just, you know, and this is, you know, almost a quick and dirty demo of it, really. But the very fact that you can actually produce a depth map using Stable Diffusion, that is, the quality is just mind-blowing. I mean, really, I've done a lot more other models, and the level of detail that you can get now that I know how to increase the resolution, obviously using Stable Diffusion, is just mind-blowing. And this was my first attempt, so yeah. So this is obviously the depth map that we're looking at. So in Blender, you just, you know, this is just a bog standard, can't remember now what the size of this is. It's just a straightforward bit of mesh, subdivided quite a number of times. I found that about, you know, 250,000 faces is usually enough for this kind of thing. I mean, you can actually increase it. I've gone up to 1 million And to be honest with you, by the time I've produced the final product, it doesn't really, and I'll show you for what kind of thing, what the using the depth map. So the way I've been using it is this. Okay, so okay. So create a plane, subdivide it a whole number of times until you get about 250,000 faces, which is fine. I mean, it obviously depends on your computer and graphics card and stuff, but it works absolutely fine. All you're going to do is, after you've done that, you're going to add a modifier, displace modifier. Okay, and then you're just going to bring in as your displacement the image. Okay, so I just called it portrait. You know, it was that image, and then it's literally you then, you know, tab into the model, and this is what you get. Okay, now you get the opportunity with the modifier to play with the strength and the mid-level, and I tend to always stick the mid-level at 0 because I don't really understand why you want to change the mid-level, but anyway, I always put it at 0 because I want it on, you know, the axis. But this is basically it, and this is, it's difficult to see it in that mode, but you can kind of see, you know, this is only a strength of 0.5, and this is the kind of model that you get. Okay, so it's displaced, right? The model is displaced. And initially this just blew my mind because I've never seen such a clean model before from this. And so if you adjust the strength of it, obviously 0 is nothing. You know, and it all depends on what level. And I've found anywhere between 4 and 5 seems to be proportional. It seems to give a good enough result. Now you can see that there are issues with this. You've got ridges that start to appear and things like that, you know. But if you're good at, and I'm not, if you're good at doing the sculpting, then you can probably go in here, and I've tried it, and I'm just not good at sculpting, I'm afraid. I'm absolutely useless at it. You can go in here and start smoothing things out and pulling and pushing and, you know, making this look really, really fancy. But considering that, if you like, almost out of the box, you can create a displaced bit of mesh like this with a depth map is mind-blowing. And it didn't take an awful lot of effort, really. I then was able to obviously bring that, you know, you can play around with it because it's basically mesh. I then sort of gave it a much more of a 3D backing on there, tidying it up, making it look a lot better. Until you get this. So what you then do, okay, so after you've applied your depth map and, you know, you're happy with the modifier, you apply the modifier and everything, you can then go into your shading and bring in your original image, which completely then transforms your model. you know. And I'm not kidding. This, I know you can tidy all this up and whatever, but I just wanted to show the simplicity of this, really. I've done a much higher resolution images, and they are just stunning. Obviously, the higher the resolution, the less kind of artifacting you get on this kind of thing sort of happening. But literally, you know, from producing an AI image to producing a depth map, bringing it into Blender and producing this was, for me, just mind-blowing. Yeah. So we're at this point, we are talking about 500,000. Okay, I played around with various different settings. I just love the effect. I mean, I think the effect is amazing. It really is amazing. And then I was playing around this morning because I tried to bring this into Second Life, and of course 500,000 faces is just crazy. So I was able to use the decimate modifier to drop the faces down quite a lot, and this was kind of my first attempt. This is interesting. How come I can't? Oh, there we go. Right, so this was my first attempt. Okay, the problem with this is I think I got it down to like, I think I got it down to something like 100 and something, 100,000 faces. But the problem with this is it's got a land impact of 40, which is just crazy, and I didn't apply any form of physics to this at all, so I just left it as it was, and just thought, you know, okay, let's see how this is going to go. But a land impact of 40 is crazy. And then I thought, well, okay, use the same model, bring it in as a cube physics, and apply the image to it, and then I started getting really excited because, you know, I mean, it's just unreal. But I don't like this. This is crazy. This is crap. But again, I've done other models and they just came out mind-blowing. But considering this is such a small resolution image, you know, I was happy with that. But then again, the land impact was still 40. I then applied the texture, and it just completely transformed it. And I thought, wow, you know. And then I played around some more with this option, which I was able to decimate a lot and still keep the resolution of this displaced model. I just love the effect, and look at the land impact too. I mean, I could probably bring it down to 1 if I really wanted to, but when you start zooming out, it starts to break up. You know, I mean, that's kind of acceptable, really. But anyway, I'm just mind blown. I've played with depth maps for years, and they didn't produce anything near this. But stable diffusion, mind blowing. Absolutely mind blowing. So yeah, so I've had a couple of people requesting kind of a little bit of an instruction video, or a kind of a walkthrough on how this is produced. Um, so I was then kind of curious as to I've seen a lot of, obviously people are using diffusion maps, or they're using something in Second Life to get their models to look, you know, kind of realistic. See, I've seen a lot of this. Okay, I've seen a lot of this kind of thing. But the land impact on some of these things, I mean, like this, for instance, this kind of plaque, you know, somebody's obviously used a depth map of some sort, and I'm guessing, I mean, this statues look a little bit more better quality than that kind of plaque at the top. I'm guessing this is probably a very low resolution, or maybe the depth map just wasn't particularly good. These statues, I'm again kind of guessing, you know, somebody's taken 3D, you know, they've used an AI 3D generator of some sort from 100 or so photographs. But yeah, I was quite surprised. If I get rid of the, we can see the mesh is, I mean, this is Second Life. It screws it triangulates everything and just screws it up big time. And if we look at this one, you can see how it's a much lower resolution, or lower density compared to this one, which is obviously a lot higher density. And I dare say there'll be people that will probably say, oh well, you know, you should be producing, you know, shrink wrap of a model and all of that, and geometry, and Second Life doesn't really care. I mean, all it cares about is land impact. Yeah, if I was doing a game ready model, maybe you would have to tidy an awful lot of this up, but as it is, mind-blowing. I can't get over the effect. It's really quite mind-blowing. Anyway, for something that one is free, yeah, it's a bit fiddly to install, but if you're determined enough to do it, and I've used Stable Diffusion for a huge amount more stuff than just producing depth maps, but it's kind of almost my go-to thing now to come up with ideas. I mean, I think that's what AI should be used for. It should be controlled, not the other way around, not shoved down your throat and being told you can't do your job properly, or you can't live your life properly unless you've got AI in your, you know. I think the use of AI is wrong. I think it should be used as a tool and not a kind of something that people have to rely on. I've already experienced people that almost can't do their job properly and their perception is that they couldn't do their job properly without ChatGPT. It's just crazy. I think that's wrong, in my opinion. But so yeah, I was really happy with this result. Very, very happy. What else have I been working on? My apothecary bottles I still haven't really finished. I've got as far as making the labels. So some have got liquids in now, and I've got the labels designed for them. I have all the artwork for the label, you know, the label making. I just haven't been able to finish this off yet, which is a bit of a shame. It's just getting time. It's getting time. This is the problem. The other thing I've been working on and off is the turbine bike, which has come on quite a lot. My reference images for this are kind of guiding me, I think, with how this is going to look. I think it's going to look really good. I managed to sort out the wings, which were really annoying me, but they now look respectable. And I think the wings, I would like the wings to actually adjust. So I know when Pantheon 3D and myself, we were always talking about steampunk stuff, and what a lot of people's perception of steampunk stuff is, whatever it is you're building, as long as you stick a load of cogs on there and wheels and bits of brass and whatnot, that turns it into steampunk. And I just don't think that always works. I've actually stopped using Pinterest because obviously I think Pinterest now is well over 90% AI. It's no longer a resource for getting ideas anymore. And I can make my own ideas now with Stable Diffusion. I can just type in a load of stuff and it comes up with a suggestion. Why go to something like Pinterest when actually you really don't know from one image to the next whether you're going to get rammed with a load of porn, to be honest. So let's be realistic. I mean, it's just absolutely covered now in porn. It's just unacceptable in my opinion, and there's no art on there anymore. I mean, there's no real photographs, there's no real art. It's just AI, mass-produced AI generated graphics. And most of it's crap, to be honest. It's not even clever. You just type in the word steampunk and cogs and wheels and whatever it is and use a reference image, and that's it. You know, you can produce 100 images in a couple of hours. Squirt them all up to Pinterest and that's it. Boom. You know, it's absolutely flooded. So it's a shame. It's a real shame. But I keep coming back to this, you know, in the evenings when, if I'm not too tired. Obviously, you know, full-time job now, unfortunately. Time is no longer mine, but I still enjoy this. I find it relaxing. What else have I been working on? This was something that I did for somebody, actually a query that somebody had producing physics in Second Life of a slide, and they were having difficulty actually producing the physics for this. Which, you know, I like that kind of thing. I like it when people set me a task. You know, you say, oh, how do you do this? How do you do that? Yeah, I quite enjoyed this. So again, I was sort of like proof of concept. If I go back to Second Life. My inventory, I think it's this particular one. So there we go. So, you know, there's the slide. I produced the physics. I've done lots and lots. They saw, this particular person saw one of my videos on YouTube, or it could have been Twitch, I don't know, and they said, oh, you know, saw your videos, I can't figure out how you do the physics for this. Yeah, so anyway, I produced this. I produced the model and then duplicated the model, and then I always used the duplicate as to create the physics. And obviously the original model I made solid, and then the physics model I really only needed the part with the slide, not really underneath. So I just removed everything, all the faces that were not really required. Let's see, and brought that into Second Life. Pretty sure I've already, yeah. So this is the model with the physics. If I show the physics, if I turn that into prim, there we go. So the orange bit is where the physics is. So it's just literally the faces on the inside of the slide. Okay. So what that means is that I am able to, I can't look up this without making it slightly bigger. Just make it a bit bigger. Like so. What it means is that when you walk up something, it's the same kind of physics as you know, stairs, but what generally tends to happen is somebody will bring this model into Second Life, and the physics model will be square, which means that you will actually, you know, it sees the side of the slide as the top. Okay, and it kind of creates a physics model across the top of your model like that. Whereas this, you can see I'm quite clearly standing, right? I'm standing on a physical object, but I can walk up. Now, I initially thought, oh, what they're trying to do is to produce a slide that people, you know, an AV will like go onto and slide down, but of course you can't do that. You can, right? You can. Let me demonstrate that a minute. Let me create a sphere. Right, so this is a sphere, and at the moment, if I click away from it, it's not doing anything, right? It's not doing anything. But this is actually a really good demonstration of how physics work in Second Life. I get out of the way of the sphere. Please don't fall off. All right, there we go. Right. So what I can do is, and this proves the physics model, is I can take that sphere and create it as a physical object and give it gravity. Right, so if it's already got gravity of 1, which will be fine, right? And if I click away from that object now, what will happen is it starts to move because it's hitting the physical object. Gravity is pulling it down, right? Now I can change the speed by which it moves, and I can lift this. I can physically move this as well with my mouse if I really wanted to, right? So I can do that with it because it's now a physical object, right? But that's why people want physics in Second Life. I need to give it a little bit of a push. Yeah, there we go. Right, so if I give it a little bit of a push, it will eventually roll all the way down to the bottom. So that worked really, really well. You know, did some bit of a video and a bit of a demo on it, and they were over the moon. They were over the moon. They in fact actually wanted to pay me. I said no, don't be silly. I do it for fun. But yeah, they were obviously that happy with it. They make models for Second Life, and their stuff is really good. It's really good. It's fun stuff, yeah, which is what we really like in Second Life. So yeah, I can walk on this. Probably push this down a little bit. And of course, my AV is also affected by this model. There we go. But anyway, no, take the money. No, I know. It's fun. Second Life is fun, and unfortunately, Second Life is changed. You know, I know things change. Everything changes over the years, but you know, it's fun. I've learnt so much. It's helped me understand so much about physics and, you know, stuff. But anyway, that was just a bit of fun to do. I can handle a second one. Yeah, it's escapism, you know. That's what it is. That's what Second Life is. You know, when I can play, I mean, this just opened my mind. I know it seems really simple, but I've been spending years of effort to try and produce quality like this. And this again, and I've already got commissions because people saw how I did this. I've already received commissions to produce artwork with this, and I've been allowed to actually use another streamer's art because she's a stunning model, and she's actually given me permission today to use some of her work, some of her photographs, and I'm gonna produce a 3D model, a safe for work 3D model. I don't know whether it's just me, but you know, this is a high resolution, right? This is a high, you know, this is a land impact of 4, and I think this was about 120,000 faces, I think. And I know that this, I managed to decimate this down to 6,000. And I got a land impact of 2, and I could probably go less, but to me, I guess because there's not so many faces, it seems to actually be better quality. I know this is the worst part. Yeah. I mean, you know, I was just experimenting. I was experimenting with this, but this for me just opens up a whole new world of stuff. I was going to demo Stable Diffusion, but there's just no way you can do that live. Absolutely no way, because what I've learned with AI is that it produces NS FW stuff really quickly, even though your description text has got nothing to do with, you know, not safe for work stuff. You can do something completely innocent, and all of a sudden it produces a not safe for work image in the middle of a batch of a dozen images. And I haven't really figured out why it does that yet. It's probably got something to do with the model engines, but then I don't know. You've got a single monitor. I've got 14 computers, and I've got my main computer's got 3 monitors on it. And yeah, it'll be difficult to do on one monitor, I would say. Yeah, you'd need a minimum of 2, I would imagine. Why do I have 14 computers? I run an awful lot of servers. Yeah, and I also use, I mean, I personally, I run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I run 6 of those computers to do an awful lot of my work. The other computers are mostly Linux boxes. Please elaborate on that. What do you mean? What do I use them for? What kinds of work? Okay, so I'm an IT person, so I do an awful lot of development. Not only do I do 3D stuff, but I do an awful lot of development for my work. So big time security. It's kind of corporate networking kind of stuff. So I've got quite a number of servers, all to do with just literally security. I've got 3 laptops, let alone desktop computers. Yeah. But yeah, I do a lot of security stuff. Yeah, so this physics ball came to a stop, obviously, because it landed on the ground and it's not going to go any further. But obviously, in Second Life, you can make it do all sorts of stuff. You can make stuff bounce if I click away. Yeah, so it kind of bounces.
Time's up. Don't forget my to-do list. Stretch and hydrate. See you in a few.
So if I alter the physics on this, if I lower the friction, for instance, I can increase the bounces. Maybe if I click away from there, it starts moving rather quickly. Or not, as the case may be. I don't think this is particularly steep, but It really scares me. Oh, okay. It really scares me because I've been involved in security to do with computers for a long time, right? And I've seen it, you know, from the days of. I've been involved in networking scarily enough for probably even longer, but I've seen how computers have gone from complete human control to now absolutely zero human control over anything if you let it, right? So again, so many people are absolutely oblivious as to what goes on behind the scenes on their computer and how much information is being sucked out of your computer or your network without your knowledge. And it's that level of kind of education that I bring into, you know, the corporate world, where even now people seem to think that they own their computer and everything on it is, you know, nice and safe and secure and all the rest of it. It ain't. There is no such thing as security. I used to give lectures many years ago on, you know, to small to medium businesses, and it was really legal profession, medical profession, you know, security in, you know, the industry, and it was frightening how people had absolutely no idea about the fact that, you know, any bit of information you share over the internet is gleaned, you know, and it's basically used. You've got nothing to hide. Most people don't have anything to hide. It's usually not a problem. It's just that your information just gets used for marketing purposes in that case. But the security industry will use your information for sure for their own purposes. Yeah, it's all a bit scary. One of the first things I used to say to people is, whatever you've heard about security doesn't really exist, because there isn't any. There is no such thing as security. It's a perceived thing, and companies are very good at making it seem like they're providing you with security, but they're not in any shape or form, no matter what they say. VPNs, don't use a VPN. Whatever you do, don't use a VPN. That is not secure. That is not secure. There is uses for VPN, but I think that's one of the biggest marketing fallacies at the moment, is people think that using a VPN makes them secure on the internet. It doesn't. Because hackers use VPNs. The only thing a VPN's good for, in my opinion, is wanting to view Netflix from a different country. You can spoof an IP address, but big corporations like Netflix and Amazon, no, it doesn't make you anonymous. Let's see, again, that's a big fallacy, I'm afraid. It doesn't make you anonymous at all. Okay, then it does. If you want to believe it makes you anonymous, then it does. Who are the people that are telling you it makes you anonymous? No, doesn't make you. VPNs don't make you anonymous. I wouldn't use a VPN. I certainly wouldn't use a VPN to browse the internet. If you're using one of these off-the-shelf packages VPNs, unless you know where it's going to, don't use it. If you're using something like NordVPN or any of these other, like McAfee or, you know, all of these, you have no control. You're not anonymous. You are not anonymous. If you know where your VPN is going and you know and have control over the endpoint, then that's a good thing. But 99.9% of people don't, so it's not anonymous. You might be hiding your IP. It might be giving you some spoofed IP, and it will make it. You can have like the onion, what they call the onion-based level of spoofing and all the rest of it, but you're not anonymous. It makes it a little bit more difficult for a hacker to get your information. You know, that's all you're doing. I always used to say to people, it's a bit like having your house, okay? Most people in the world don't lock their windows and very often don't even lock their front door when they're in the house. So the chances of you being burgled are actually quite high. The likelihood of being burgled is probably quite low, because your average Joe Bloggs thief is looking for an opportunity to try and steal something without getting caught, right? So they're going to go for the least resistance in order to get whatever they want. I mean, I've had discussions with very high level people at places like Sophos. My uncle used to own a security company, you know, and he even used to say that house security systems, they're only a deterrent. At best, they're a deterrent. You know, a burglar walking down a street, sees a few windows open at night, is going to look for an opportunity for you know, a quick win. They're not going to try and break into a house with an alarm system, especially, you know, if it's in a fairly public area and there's a risk of getting caught. If you've got cameras, also a deterrent. They're only deterrents. That's all you're doing. You're confidence building. That's all companies ever do, is they're confidence building you into parting with your money for a security system that is only acting as a deterrent. A guy once explained to me, he said, burglars nowadays, and this was a long time ago actually, this was probably about 15 years ago, and we had a security system installed by this company, and I knew what I was getting into. I was paying money for a deterrent at the end of the day. But the guy that was installing it, he even said, you know, at the end of the day, he said, most burglars now, they know that every house has got a big TV, they've got computers, they've got phones, they've got, you know, cars worth money. He said it's just cherry picking. That's all it is. It's cherry picking. It's hit and miss. If you can put more obstacles in someone's way to steal something, then that's the best you can do. And it's the same with computer technology. You can be a little bit more vigilant with computer technology if you know what you're doing. But at the end of the day, if a hacker wants to hack into your machine, you know, they're going to do it. Don't matter what you've got in the way, really. It all depends on whether they think the time and effort involved in hacking your machine for information or stealing your computer is really worth the hassle. They may be able to go and hack 1,000 other people's computers really easily, rather than yours that might take a couple of months to hack, you know. But if you haven't got anything worth anything, then there's no point. What's the point? But it is, I do find it quite interesting how these companies advertise the fact that they think VPN technology is protecting them. It isn't. It isn't at all. The only time I've ever used a VPN was visiting Asian countries that don't allow privacy. That's where a VPN comes in, but it doesn't stop you getting hacked. Hacker can still get through your data on a VPN. It just allowed me to get access to my email, my business network, etc. in a country that doesn't respect privacy. What else have I been working on? I've been doing other things. Oh yeah. This was something else I worked on. Yes, it even makes a super hacker. The internet people said it. It even makes a super hacker. I don't know what that means, sorry. Oh, okay. Right. Yeah. This is something I keep meaning to. I started this, and this is I've wanted to make a dirigible, which is basically a glorified air balloon, you know, an air blimp. This was the base. And again, you know, it's another little thing that I wanted to try and get done. So this was literally kind of the cockpit stroke seating area, which is actually quite big. So this will all be glass and wood, and then there'll be quite a lot of, you know, brass and steampunk themed again. And then on top of this would be you know, a blimp type thing, big blimp up here. So yeah, doing the geometry for this was quite interesting. Trying to get the geometry looking good on here was quite a task, because that's where I've gone wrong before with this, is getting the geometry correct. Yeah, it's an interesting subject, security. Considering now that nearly all security from a corporate level is zero trust. So even if you work for the company, there is zero trust. You are considered a hacker from day one. You are considered somebody who is a big risk to any business now. And everything starts from that level. Whereas before, it was always assumed that because you worked for a company, that you were a trusted employee. And that is completely turned on its head now. So there is now a policy that is zero trust across the board. And this is what always scares me about things like banks and things like that, because they're nearly always the last to, you know, pick up on this stuff. And it just scares the living daylights out of me that these companies, big corporate companies, allow people in foreign countries to become support on some, you know, remote device somewhere that they have absolutely no idea. And in fact, they probably never even saw the person or interviewed the person, you know. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting, but this is how you have to run your business now from a security level. Zero trust, everyone. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter whether you're the CEO of the company or, you know, the gardener. I manage servers for very prominent banking organizations in London back in the day. Back in the day when I was earning a big salary, and it always scared the living daylights out of me that your average Joe Bloggs floor person, you know, somebody who was a banker on the floor, had access to, you know, some of the main servers. And you know, that's how things were back then, you know, file systems and inherited rights and such like, you know. For an awful lot of companies, it was just like an open book, and it was scary that people were allowed access to stuff. That's before all this zero trust thing came in, and I used to keep even thinking it way back then. And of course, you're not exactly liked for saying things like that, you know. But that's the reality. You have to work on the fact that you're already being hacked. You know. What happens if somebody took all your data and held you to ransom, or encrypted all your hard drive? You know, could you still operate? Most businesses can't. Most businesses don't. They don't have backups. Had that recently with somebody. They lost hundreds of gigabytes of data because they were led to believe that their system was secure and that their backups were happening. It's such a shame, you know. And they lost something like 15 years worth of data because they trusted the system that they were using. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. The hardest thing with this model, believe it or not, was this area here. I don't know why, but this was the worst thing. I spent quite a long time trying to get this working. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I got there in the end. I really literally had to go in here and start joining up, you know, joining up things. And yeah, this wasn't clean at all. Okay. What else have I been working on? Yeah, that's probably about it, I think, really. Oh yeah, I was working on this. I produced these. And I went a bit over the top with the brassness of them, I think, and they ended up looking like this, which I thought was quite a cool effect. I like that one and that one. The big bottle's a bit over the top, really. But I quite like the effect of them. I really need to get into doing more modeling. I miss it. I miss it. I miss it. And I've got so many ideas. So many ideas. Okay. I might call it a day, actually. It's getting extremely hot and I'm really... My brain's got to a point where I can't even think properly. And I've got a few things I need to work on. I can't work on it, stream it. It's not safe for work. The risk is too high, really. I could finish actually on, yeah, the heat ice, but it's not so much the heat, it's the humidity. It's just so uncomfortable. I mean, the hottest place I've ever been was 42 degrees, and yes, it burnt your skin, and you could not walk on the floor even with shoes. But the heat was dry. Right, the heat was dry, and that was all you were dealing with, was the fact that it was hot. But unfortunately in this country we've got that heat and it's not that hot really. It's the humidity, the sticky, the kind of the disgusting sticky heat that comes with it is what gets me. It's not good. It's not good. It's not good. Anyway, I've got to produce a video of the first part I did of this so that I can demo how to use the depth map. It's because I've recorded this, obviously. And I was just going to sort of really keep this to about an hour today. So thank you very much for coming along, Morning Stark. It's good to hear from you again. Always enjoy our chats. It's always good fun. But I get to a point where in the afternoon my brain just can't function. I just can't think of stuff. Like in the morning I can get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and work, not a problem, and I can do that until probably 1 o'clock, at which point then, you know, I'm doing menial task stuff. Really serious stuff I can't really do in the afternoon. And I know some people are around the other way. They would much rather sleep most of the day. But this is some pictures from, I don't know whether you ever went to Fantasy Fair. Why can't I run it? Oh, there we go. But there was some this was the first year for about 5 or 6 years that I actually repeatedly kept going back into Fantasy Fair, and I actually enjoyed the artwork. And I, you know, for the last few years it wasn't that brilliant, to be honest. I wasn't that impressed with it, but this year it looks like some of the artists are getting back into producing quality stuff again. Yeah, there's some real, I mean, look at this. I mean, you know, the amount of time and effort people have put into making this look so realistic is just mind-blowing. The amount of time and effort people have put into designing stuff. Yeah, so there was some, in my opinion, some quality stuff on Second Life in the Fairlands. It was really good. Pictures don't do it justice, really. They're not really high res enough, but yeah, I mean, it's quite amazing. Quite amazing, really. I like this building. This is quite impressive. I'm always looking at other people's models as well in things like Second Life. You know, I always go out and I start looking at the land impact, and then I look at how the mesh structure is, and you know, you can tell that, you know, somebody's modeled something with a bit of care and effort in there. And then some of it you can see is just not, if you know what I mean. But you know, I mean, like this, you know, this area here was quite amazing. Some of it's very, very clever. This was a really nice place as well. I get lots of inspiration from things like that in Second Life, you know, when I look at something and I think, wow, that's actually really, really neat, you know. And the effects that people have got as well on this building was amazing. I can't remember what land it was called, but this whole building was really, really, look at the size of it, and I love the glass effects, and I mean, it really was amazing. Whoever built, and this, they had trouble with this on the first day of opening, so they were asking people not to actually go here. But the level of detail of it is just, I took obviously lots of photographs of it. It was amazing. This was also a very, very well done. I think what happened was, I think before 2020, 2019 was the last time I would say that the Fairlands was worth going to. And since then, it really wasn't. And I think that was because of what was happening globally. And I think it just, I think people just lost heart. And an awful lot of the artists that I was actually really friends with, they just disappeared. They just literally disappeared. They were no longer. And I think what happened was people were desperate to get people who could do, and a group that I was with hired somebody to do some work, and my god, it was awful, to create an island. They sponsored a whole island during the Fairlands. And then the building was, it was just crap. It really was bad. I like this. And all it is a glass cabinet with some pipes in it and whatnot. But it was so effective, you know. Some steampunky pipes and wheels and bits of wire and gauges and stuff like that. This inspired me. I copied this blatantly. Yeah, I like the pipes. This, when I saw this, the way that they had done this, it looked like some sort of plasma was going through this pipe, and I copied it, absolutely blatantly copied it. Overwatch, yeah. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to have a go at doing that. So after I saw this, I absolutely copied. And this was harder to make than I thought it was going to be. But I did it. And but yeah, there's some pretty good stuff. You know, look at it's the texturing, you see. It's the texturing of stuff makes it look really, really good. And you've got this glass, and then you've got kind of a glass tube on the inside coated in copper with windows, and then you've got what looks like steel, you know. It's interesting you say that about Overwatch, because I have always believed, even from the very early days of Cola in Second Life, because I know that game developers were using Second Life as a benchmark for their models. So there were several places in Cola, a place called Cola, City of Angels, LA, and then and I know that they were bringing their builds into Second Life and producing towns and cities and all that kind of thing. And I think that they were using Second Life as a, you know, I think it was in before the days of Unity and whatever the other one is. I can never remember what the name of the other one is. You know, where you could have these engines for free and bring your stuff in and play with it. And I think they were using Second Life for that. And that's where I think a lot of this stuff comes from. I think a lot of it is game developers and builders and artists. They're not making this stuff for Second Life. Why would they do that? Second Life doesn't give them anything. So I think they're making this stuff as almost like a showcase. But it's very clever. It's very, very clever what they can do now. See, this kind of thing, somebody hasn't modeled this. I believe this is done with depth map. I think somebody's photographed this object somehow, and they've used AI or an engine somehow to produce a 3D model of it. And then, of course, if you know how to do sculpting, you can bring that in to Blender or another program, and then, you know, make it look even better. But a lot of these things, I think, are all, you know, these kind of ogre type things. There's so much with so much intricate detail that I don't believe people are modeling this stuff anymore. I think they're photographing or using, you know, images to create depth maps that produce displacement, you know, models. See, I used a displacement map on a depth map to make also a road like this. And I was able to bring the land impact down a huge amount, you know, and it worked. That's it. That's the end. I think that's the end of my photographs. Yeah. That's my shop. Yeah. Anyway, thanks very much for popping along and staying and chatting. I know people don't follow my Twitch anymore, and I don't blame them, because you know, I'm not streaming as much. We've had some massive projects in the last few months, and quite a lot of IRL stuff happening, which has stopped me from spending time streaming. But those things are actually calming down now, and so I in theory should be able to stream a little bit more often. I'm hoping anyway, and certainly get back to my 3D stuff, because I really miss it. For me, it's therapeutic, you know, after a hard day of work, you know, to come back and then just create stuff. I love it. And as I say, I've got a couple of commissions to do, so I can get on and do those as well, which would be quite interesting. And it might be interesting to stream those. So anyway, thank you very much. I don't think I've got, apart from yourself, I don't think anyone else is actually, no one else is here. So I'm not going to bother raiding anyone because that'd be kind of pointless. But thanks very much for popping along, and I hope to see you again in another stream.